And the Oscar goes to...
7 Oscars and the best film of 2022. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. The fantasy action film by creative duo Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, collectively known as the Daniels, immediately gained a small cult following and became the highest-grossing film for the studio A24. Interestingly, the film's script was initially written for Jackie Chan. According to the original concept, even the main character's name was supposed to be Jackie Chan. He would also travel through alternate universes, where he would take on the roles of a cook, a singer, a scientist, and of course, an actor and Eastern martial arts master. More importantly, the key conflict with his daughter was also taken from the actor's real life. Jackie Chan does in fact have a lesbian daughter, and they aren't on the best of terms. All of this to say that not only was the film supposed to tell the audience a fascinating story, but also to fundamentally change the life of the actor himself as a sort of celebration of it. But Jackie Chan turned down the project. However, the Daniels didn't give up on their idea. They decided to change the main character while keeping many of the plot's elements. But apparently, there were a few things in the script that had to be fundamentally altered. And that's what this video is all about. Wait, stop. Correction. The first thing that comes to mind when mentioning the hero's journey is Joseph Campbell's 1949 book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Based on an analysis of a variety of classical works, mythology, folklore, and collective human experience, Campbell came up with a formula for the cycle of a hero's development. The idea of the hero's journey is to go through the fundamental stages of development and return back to the starting point, but as a different person, to be self-actualized, to reconcile with oneself and with the world as a whole. These stages can be found in every story, from the New Testament to Star Wars. However, the problem is that this structure only works with male characters. Female characters either had to stay within the Cinderella archetype, or the author simply attributed masculine qualities to the heroine and sent her along the same monomyth structure. But as time passed, the role of women in society began to change. There emerged a new demand for stories about female characters who could change their social status in some other way, besides marrying into wealth. In 1990, Maureen Murdoch, psychotherapist and student of Joseph Campbell, published a response to her mentor's theory, highlighting some fundamental differences. For example, while the hero's journey occurs outwardly through external adventures, then the heroine's journey goes inward as she explores her subconscious inner world. In other words, if the path of the hero is about how to become a legend, then the path of a heroine is about, who am I? The concept. Now, let's take Maureen Murdoch's idea and try to apply it to the movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. But first, let's define what conceptual cinema and conceptual art in general is. Conceptual art is a work that focuses not on masterful execution, but on the underlying idea as the key to understanding the piece as a whole. In other words, while traditional art may rely on its aesthetic or narrative qualities to promote a unique, emotional viewing experience, conceptual art seeks to bring the viewer pleasure through intellectual comprehension of the underlying theme or philosophical question. These works don't just tell a story, they are dedicated to exploring more complex themes and ideas. Art like this often experiments with form, structure, and even the cinematic medium itself. They often challenge viewers' expectations and may cause them to stop and think. Conceptual art is widely represented in painting, sculpture, literature, architecture, and of course, cinema. In contemporary postmodern art, almost every work contains a certain concept that allows the underlying idea to be better understood. This is known as the false bottom effect. By the way, the Daniels' first film, Swiss Army Man, also represents a conceptual viewpoint. It explores the idea of being in touch with one's inner child. But back to the movie in question. Taking Maureen Murdoch's structure as the key to understanding the film, it becomes immediately obvious that the Daniels followed her formula to a T. So, from the beginning, we know how the story will end and all of the stages in between. And even more, the structure of the heroine's journey is followed so strictly that all the talk about multiverses, quantum physics, and the concept of interconnectivity are just a screenwriting tool to help the heroine embark on a spiritual journey deep within herself. This journey has but one goal: to restore the character's connection with their own soul, or, as Murdoch herself would say, a release from the subconscious and an integration of all one's qualities, including masculine and feminine values, various concepts, archetypes, subconscious fears and complexes, a sense of shame, and other Freudian images and symbols straight from the subconscious. Now let's go on a journey of our own. Stage 1. Separation from the feminine. The character Evelyn, whose name was almost likely chosen for its similarity to Eve, has already shifted away from the feminine values at the beginning of the film. She is surrounded by cultural conventions.
You know, he doesn't have to stay.
Who's he?
Becky.
Becky's a she.
Worries and anxieties.
Have you
Guess
met
whose
Becky?
toy got eaten by the machine again?
The heroine is convinced that everything depends on her alone, but she's deeply unhappy. Her life has lost its meaning.
客人的衣服不见了，02在哪儿？
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42.
客人的衣服不见了，02在哪儿？
Here, we first meet the antagonist Joy, the main character's daughter.
Every day I fight for all of us.
Stage 2. A mentor.
You may be in grave danger. There's no time to explain. Hold this.
The heroine meets someone who believes in her. That is, the person serves as an outside reminder of the heroine of her own importance and value. Alpha Wayman, her husband from a parallel universe, acts as the mentor here.
My dear Evelyn, don't let anything distract you from it.
Road of Trials. The heroine's journey requires that she overcome 3 myths: the myth of dependency, the myth of inferiority, the myth of romantic love. But just before that, the plotline splits into 2 main parts.
Evelyn, wait! No!
No.
She's in a local divergent universe.
These 2 plotlines run parallel to one another while developing the same themes. The first of these timelines is realistic. It's the divergent universe where Evelyn goes to do her taxes. The second is metaphorical. Its purpose is to visually represent the inner workings of the subconscious. A similar technique can be seen in the animated film Inside Out, where 2 worlds, internal and external, also develop side by side. Stage 3. Overcoming the myth of dependency. To become self-sufficient and debunk the myth of dependency, the heroine must metaphorically defeat a 2-headed dragon. Only then can she prove to herself that she's capable of succeeding on her own. And that's exactly what happens. Alpha Wayman becomes disappointed in her and abandons her.
I need to find the right Evelyn. And this one, it's not the one.
This forces Evelyn to defend herself. A colorful IRS agent takes on the role of the 2-headed dragon. What's interesting is that Evelyn had already fought this inspector a little earlier, but it was premature. Plus, she had her defender with her, but now she's left alone with her enemy. To overcome the myth of dependency, Evelyn must confess her love to her enemy, and this is a pivotal point in the script. Defeating the 2-headed dragon would be to accept its archetype, and therefore integrate it into oneself. Integrating is tantamount to loving. By integrating the archetype of the 2-headed dragon, Evelyn discovers a hidden resource within herself, experience from another universe, the one in which she chooses the path of self-reliance. And around this point, it becomes clear why this movie seems like one endless climax. That's because each transition from stage to stage is shown as a global scale event. What would have been a major scene in any other movie is merely a passing moment here. Stage 4. Destroying the myth of female inferiority. This is where the heroine must face the cannibal tyrant and defeat him. The traditional image of the cannibal tyrant is Kronos, or Saturn devouring his children. In the film, the heroine's father symbolizes the cannibal tyrant.
While she is distracted, it's only protocol, but it's a sacrifice that is necessary to win the war.
Evelyn's goal is to rise up against the tyrant.
I won't let you kill her.
While the heroine already showed that she could fight in stage 3, here she must prove to herself that she can fight just as well as anyone else, meaning that she is capable of succeeding in the competitive male world. Defeating the tyrant in this case also means integrating his image, that is, loving him. Thus, Evelyn ends up in a universe where her father is her teacher. This gives her the opportunity to discover another superpower, Now, we're going to focus on two separate but equally interesting scenes that can be perceived as both a fun reference and social commentary. The fight with the Pomeranian. When we look at the filmography of Jenny Slate, the actress's real name, we find out that she's voiced a Pomeranian twice for the animated films The Secret Life of Pets and its sequel. The same Pomeranian is now a murder weapon here. Considering that the multiverse visualizes everything that the main character can imagine, it can be assumed that Evelyn is fighting against a world in which small dogs are viewed as accessories and inanimate objects by their owners. Evelyn is most likely expressing the opinion of the authors themselves here.
No! Johnny!
Now for the second iconic scene, the fight for the phallus. In this case, this isn't just a dildo.
Do you see these? You don't get one of these unless you've seen a lot of bullshit.
It's a reward for a job well done. The analogy is self-explanatory. You know what lengths people will go in pursuit of efficiency and better results.
I felt sorry for guys packed into gyms, trying to look like how Calvin Klein or Tommy Hilfiger said they should.
Self-improvement is masturbation.
Stage 5. Overcoming the myth of romantic love. At this stage, the heroine has to show the knight in shining armor that she isn't an old-fashioned damsel in distress and doesn't need saving. Until this moment, Evelyn still believes in romantic love. All it takes is for Wayman to pay her a compliment or touch her, and she immediately begins to fantasize. Even after defeating the dragon and meeting the cannibal tyrant, Evelyn doesn't lose sight of Wayman. But when Alpha Wayman dies, her perfect prince dies too.
What you're doing is crazy. Your stupid plan to somehow save your daughter has managed to piss off everyone. Grateful that Chance was kind enough to let us have these last few moments together.
The real Wayman appears immediately, but she isn't interested anymore. Hopes of a happily ever after that is completely detached from reality no longer holds any relevance to her. She doesn't believe in romantic love anymore. Stage 6. Belief in the Superwoman. This is the symbolic equator, the middle of the journey. This is where the heroine is farthest from her feminine values. If we look at the cycle, we notice that the first half of the journey is an immersion into the male world, a world of battle, overcoming, struggle, and competition. The stage of believing in the Superwoman represents the pinnacle of this struggle.
Stop you, Jobu. Now that I'm reaching my full potential.
At this stage, the heroine feels that she has won, but she is mistaken. She is actually suffering from a false sense of confidence about her heroism, believing that she can simultaneously be victorious in the male and female worlds. Denial of this fact breaks Evelyn. Her conscious mind can't take it, and her world falls apart. She experiences a symbolic death. An utter detachment from feminine values has led to an emotional shutdown. Evelyn doesn't feel anything. Nothing matters to her anymore.
Mrs. Wang, where are you?
Shut up.
What did you just say?
I said shut up. You don't matter. Nothing matters.
This leads to the divorce and murder of Wayman, the exposure of Raka Kanui,
What are you doing? No!
broken relationship in the world of hot dog hands, separation and relationships ending in all of the universes. The result is an inner emptiness and total alienation from the needs of her soul. This is rock bottom. Devoid of feelings, the heroine becomes a stone, both literally and metaphorically. Stage 7. Saying no to the king. At this stage, the heroine confronts the archetype of the king by rejecting his call. This is the first time that she consciously allows herself to be weak. She lets herself give up.
一切都会好起来的，他会再给我们多1个礼拜。How？我又何尝不是？只是我们选择的处理方式不一样。
Having immersed herself and integrated the experience of male victories and conquest, the heroine begins her journey back to the world of femininity. She moves away from the archetype of the Superwoman and rejects excessive demands on herself, thereby silencing the inner tyrant.
Evelyn! Bagel!
Please, be kind.
Having plunged to the very bottom and met her antagonist there, the heroine says to Jobutupaki, "No."
Come on, Evelyn. Come on.
Evelyn hasn't yet completed her journey of integration, but now let's take a look at Jobutupaki's journey. Jobutupaki's journey. Jobutupaki, a version of Joy from the Alpha world. She's been treated cruelly by her mother, and now her consciousness is shattered. She explains her misfortune, frustration, and unfulfilled dreams through the concept of everything bagel, the essence of which is that nothing matters. Jobutupaki travels through the various universes in search of a version of Evelyn who will be able to share in her emptiness. That is, she's looking for an ideal mother figure. This is precisely why other versions of Evelyn explode and become babies upon contact with Jobutupaki. Their inner child can't handle the amount of emptiness and disappointment that she's been through.
You're gonna make me walk through you?
However, Evelyn, being the worst version of herself, has experienced just as much disappointment, and that's exactly what brings them together.
Every rejection, every disappointment has led you here, to this moment.
Stage 8. The return to the goddess. At this stage, the heroine once again encounters the archetype of the goddess, from whom she had previously distanced herself. As she moves towards integration with the feminine, the heroine begins to identify with the traditionally female roles that she had rejected in the first stage.
When my husband served me papers, I drove his Kia Forte through my neighbor's kitchen.
A brief conversation with the IRS inspector prompts her to begin reuniting with the feminine force.
Play something for me.
She eventually merges with the Anima, the archetype of feminine beauty.
I say, it's called unlovable bitches like us. Make the world go round.
You're not unlovable.
You're not unlovable! What are you talking about?
Stage 9. I am the wild woman, Anima. As she continues on the path of integrating feminine qualities, the heroine must confront the archetype of the Anima, the embodiment of feminine feelings, passion, emotionality, sensitivity, and beauty. The Anima is played by the tax agent in the Hot Dog Fingers universe. This is also extremely symbolic, considering that to merge with the Anima means to not only accept one's feelings, but also one's feminine body. All of this reveals new powers for the heroine, turning her into a wild woman. It gives her the ability to see not only her own pain, but also the pain of other people.
I feel a little sore, but everything's looking pretty good.
And the main person whose pain she must share is, of course, Jobutupaki, the antagonist version of Joy. Stage 10. Healing the Mother/Daughter Split. In Murdoch's book, this stage is called Healing the Mother/Daughter Split, and that's exactly what we witness on screen. While the previous stage positioned the two women as equals, now the mother and daughter must acknowledge their inherent differences and accept their roles. Overcoming the gap between different generations means resolving the conflict of traditional and modern values. This conflict is resolved on several different levels. Evelyn resolves the conflict with her father.
呢個係 Becky， 阿 Joy 嘅女朋友。女朋友。
Waymond. Rakakuni.
I'll rescue your silly raccoon.
And most importantly, with her daughter. This is a great point from which to analyze Evelyns journey. Evelyn Wang's journey. Evelyn is the worst version of herself, but how did she get this way? Every time the heroine had a choice to make, she turned it down. She chose to remain in her comfort zone and be led by someone else. The principle of obtaining new skills and revealing one's superpowers becomes clear. Do strange things. To do strange things means to immerse yourself in unfamiliar conditions and create a need to adapt to them. This, in turn, promotes personal growth. Not for the sake of efficiency, but to satisfy one's soul. The fact that this process isn't understood until exactly halfway through the film is symbolic. I'm not kidding. 1 hour and 9 minutes into the movie, Evelyn chooses to adapt for the first time without outside encouragement.
What the fuck are you doing?
Evelyn chooses to adapt in order to overcome. This is when the heroine finally finds her path as she consciously chooses to create new conditions and adapt to them. That's why everything that comes after this scene has more of an epic feel. In the quest to save her daughter, Evelyn finds and saves herself. But wherein lies her strength? Unlike Jobutupaki, with her nihilistic worldview, Evelyn can't decide what she thinks until the very end. She always tries to apply a previous concept that may have saved her a few scenes ago, but once it's used, it doesn't work again. This forces Evelyn to keep moving forward from one concept to the next, assimilating new experiences along the way. Let's recall what she has already integrated: the ability to defend herself, the ability to compete in a competitive world, the ability to let go of romantic love, the ability to see herself as strong and independent, the ability to accept her weakness, stage 7, the ability to accept her feminine side, the ability to accept her body, stage 9, the ability to accept her father with his traditional values, the ability to accept her husband's naivety, the ability to take on the role of a mother, the ability to accept her family as a unified system. She's also able to accept her daughter by accepting and integrating her concept.
Nothing matters.
Notice how in the beginning there's just one pair of eyes, but at the end there are 4. One pair for each family member. It seems like everything has come to a resolution, but the movie doesn't end there. The cycle hasn't been completed. Psychological balance has not yet been achieved. Stage 11. A man with a big heart, Animus. At this stage, the heroine discovers that within her is a man with a big heart. She encounters and integrates the Animus archetype, the masculine portion of the psyche. This includes masculine beauty, the masculine body, masculine feelings, emotions, and needs. By accepting the Animus archetype, Evelyn accepts Wayman as he is, with all of his strengths and weaknesses, victories and defeats. For the heroine, integrating the Animus satisfies not a romantic interest, but a loving one. Interestingly, by doing so, Evelyn fulfills Wayman's unspoken desire. At the beginning of the film, Wayman notices an elderly couple who are still quite affectionate towards each other. At the end of the movie, he and Evelyn have replaced the couple. Stage 12. Beyond duality, hermaphrodite. By integrating the Animus archetype within herself, and therefore entering into a sacred union with it, a new person is born, a hermaphrodite, or divine infant, one who has overcome the problem of duality and become the ruler of 2 worlds, the masculine world, the feminine world. The divine infant is Evelyn herself. Now she's happy to be here and pay taxes. Her inner conflict is resolved. She now accepts herself in any form, having made peace with her subconscious and rejected all concepts.
Evelyn, did you hear me?
Sorry. What did you say?
Some might find this to be the film's main irony. The Daniels made a movie about rejecting all concepts, but made it in a highly conceptual way. Maybe that's true. However, I'd like to remind you that any concept, including the hero's journey, will always be highly conditional. A hero or heroine can complete all parts of the journey and still be interesting to an audience. Following a systemic approach is undoubtedly important, but it is far more important for a story to convey real-life experiences through original and possibly provocative images. Who knows? Maybe we'll never understand the true meaning behind any particular scene in this film. But our subconscious will. Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's all I have for you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to press the like and subscribe buttons so you never miss an update from us. You can also subscribe to the author of this video's channel using the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and supporting this channel. We couldn't do it without you. Bye for now.